Canned drinks hold a significant place in the hearts of soda lovers across America. Every year, billions of cola cans hit grocery shelves, each one crafted from aluminum that largely comes from overseas sources. The domestic aluminum industry once thrived to meet the nation's demand, but over the last decade, the reliance on imports has skyrocketed, causing local production to dwindle. In a bold move to bolster America's metal sector, President Trump is turning up the heat on imported aluminum. Yet, his tariffs are not just another piece of legislation, they are a double-edged sword that could spike the costs of Coca-Cola's beloved cans. When tariffs were raised to 25% back in 2023, a visibly distressed CEO, James Quincy, disclosed, "The increase in steel and aluminum costs will ripple through to can prices, our most essential production component. A price review may be necessary." Previously, Coca-Cola had cautiously adjusted prices upward by 3 to 4%, but with the recent announcement of a jarring 50% tariff, the situation escalates from bad to worse. This staggering spike may nearly double expenses per case, leaving little room for strategic planning. The question echoes through the business corridors: why should a global powerhouse like Coca-Cola be worried? The answer lies within the U.S. market itself, a critical revenue avenue for Coca-Cola. While they import some components from Mexico and Asia, a large portion of their can aluminum traditionally hails from Canada and Brazil. Unfortunately, this tariff twist cuts deep, questioning the feasibility of their import-driven structure. With rising costs due to the tariffs, can Coca-Cola sustain its production, or will it face a momentous reckoning? In the previous segment, we uncovered the growing reliance on foreign aluminum supplies in Coca-Cola's production process. With imports from Canada and Brazil forming the backbone of its can manufacturing, President Trump's sweeping 50% tariff threatens to shatter this fragile balance. This development sends shockwaves through Coca-Cola's core operations. As the realization sets in, Coca-Cola faces a daunting question: is domestic sourcing a viable solution? However, the prospect of ramping up local aluminum production appears grim in the immediate future. When Trump's announcement hit the airwaves, it felt like a cold shower drenching Coca-Cola's executives, particularly CEO James Quincy. The initial 25% tariff strained the supply chain, but the leap to 50% could impose an extra cost burden of 3 to 4 cents per can. Given the scale, tens of billions of cans sold, the stakes are monumental. The choices that lie ahead are fraught with peril: either pass the price increases on to consumers or irreparably harm profits. Behind closed doors, whispers abound that Quincy is in talks with White House officials. These tariffs jeopardize American businesses, he asserts privately, echoing an urgent plea for exemptions or quotas. Yet, the Trump administration stands firm, asserting the necessity of these tariffs to breathe life back into the U.S. metals industry. As former trade advisor Peter Navarro puts it, tariffs will force large companies to seek domestic sources. But Coca-Cola knows the realities of local sourcing may be far less straightforward than it seems. Even at maximum capacity, domestic aluminum suppliers would struggle to meet an explosive demand. With costs rocketing, price hikes for consumers appear inevitable. If a previous increase of 3 to 4% incited backlash, a staggering 10 to 15% rise could provoke an outcry. The company's loyalty to its customers hangs in the balance in a market where soft drink prices could soon feel unattainable. Does Coca-Cola's vast international production network hold the key? While facilities exist beyond U.S. borders, any drink sold in America will still face hefty tariffs. The logistical nightmare looms large as imports will require navigating these newly erected barriers. Will Coca-Cola unravel the complexities of their global operations in time? As uncertainty thickens like fog, James Quincy contemplates the looming crisis. What will it mean for America's iconic beverage? In the midst of rising tariffs, Coca-Cola faces a looming crisis. The colossal beverage company is grappling with the possibility of a 50% tariff on aluminum imports, a nightmare scenario for James Quincy, the CEO. This is not merely a financial worry, it raises significant questions about the company's future in the American market. With the potential perception of soft drinks evolving into luxury items, will Coca-Cola's global production network truly save the day? As the scene unfolds, a vivid picture emerges. Cans of Coca-Cola, manufactured in distant countries like Mexico, are now subject to steep import tariffs. Picture trucks and trains brimming with cola, crossing borders yet facing hefty taxes. This brings into sharp focus that even beverages produced abroad face barriers that could make them inaccessible to American consumers. While some may suggest switching to glass or plastic bottles, Coca-Cola has long maintained that losing the can market is not an option. The environmental implications and costs associated with alternative packaging simply do not add up. And yet, the situation is further complicated. Tariffs impact glass and plastic in ways you might not expect. Now, the origin of aluminum comes under scrutiny. Customs data clearly indicates that Canada is the largest supplier, followed closely by Brazil and countries in the Middle East. With the tariff tensions between Canada and the US erupting, a chilling concern rises. Will aluminum from Canada still find its way to Coca-Cola's production lines? As Quincy's team faces this treacherous reality, one nagging question lingers: where to turn next? Even if they seek alternatives from Brazil or Gulf nations, logistical nightmares and increasing costs loom. Quincy's team, reminiscent of explorers in a dark tunnel, describes their plight. Everywhere we turn, we hit a wall. The specter of a 50% tariff looms over them, threatening to send shockwaves throughout the beverage aisle. In an effort to preserve margins, Coca-Cola has slashed its once mighty marketing budget. As John Murphy, the CFO, declares, tough choices are made in tough times. R&D and sponsorship funding appears to be vanishing. But the critical question still endures: when the consumer reaches for their favorite soda, what will they find on the shelves? The public's reaction to rising prices could be explosive. The stakes have never been higher, and with uncertainty at every turn, Coca-Cola must navigate a treacherous landscape. Will the company find a way to thrive in this volatile environment, or will they succumb to the immense pressure surrounding them? Previously we noted that soaring raw material prices and a dramatically reduced marketing budget are pushing Coca-Cola to slash R&D, advertising, and sponsorship spending. What if the nation's most iconic fizzy drink, a staple on every kitchen counter, suddenly vanished from supermarket aisles because a single tariff hike made its aluminum cans unaffordable? Imagine store shelves echoing with empty spaces where the familiar clink of chilled cans used to ring, families wondering why their beloved soda is missing, while politicians debate tariffs in marble-filled chambers. Could a coalition of farmers, food producers, and beverage giants unite to force a policy reversal, or will the tax remain, reshaping the very taste of American life? A memory flickers: a summer barbecue, the sun blazing, sweat soaking the back of my neck, the hiss of a cooler opening, ice cubes clattering, and the crisp pop of a cold can being cracked. The scent of citrus mingled with charcoal. That simple pleasure now feels threatened. The trade war has tightened its grip on aluminum. President Trump announced a 50% duty on imports, targeting the metal that forms the backbone of every Coke can. Previously, a 25% levy already nudged prices upward. Now the new rate could double the cost per box. Quincy, Coca-Cola's chief, watches the numbers climb, aware that a 3-cent increase per can could translate into billions of dollars across the market. Farmers across the Midwest are already feeling the squeeze: dairy restrictions, diminished export avenues, and a looming sense of loss. Senators from Kansas and Iowa question whether empty shelves will soon become the norm. Will the administration retreat under mounting pressure, or will it double down, insisting that domestic aluminum will rise from the ashes of foreign supply? Quincy's private meetings with White House aides are described as tense. He argues that building new domestic smelters would take 2 to 3 years and cost billions, a timeline that stretches beyond the 2028-2029 horizon when the plants might finally hit full capacity. In the meantime, the 50% tariff looms like a storm cloud over every production line. Public sentiment sways like a pendulum. Some voters view Coke as an essential slice of American culture, while others, loyal to the America First message, see the beverage as a symbol of globalist excess. Could a united front of food and agriculture lobbyists pressure the government into granting exemptions or quotas for essential commodities? Or will the hardline approach persist, forcing companies to make impossible choices? If raw material costs stay sky-high, even the most aggressive advertising won't convince consumers to accept a steep price hike. A 1015% increase could trigger outrage, turning the beloved soda into a perceived luxury. Yet, cutting marketing further risks eroding brand loyalty, a gamble Coca-Cola can scarcely afford. The future hangs in balance. Will domestic aluminum production finally surge, making cans affordable again? Or will the 50% tariff linger, reshaping the beverage landscape for years to come? The answer may determine whether the next generation hears the familiar fizz or only the silent echo of empty shelves. Earlier, we saw how voices within the Trump supporter circle claimed that global giants, like Coca-Cola, were undermining domestic metal producers, and now, finally, those giants were being forced to pay the price. While there's hope that American aluminum production might bounce back someday, what lies in between is a murky and costly struggle. The truth? No miracle revival has appeared yet, only soaring expenses. Despite this looming crisis, Coca-Cola did not slam the brakes and announce an immediate 20% price hike. Instead, James Quincy, the CEO, moves cautiously. Could he afford to shock millions of loyal consumers by suddenly making their favorite soda dramatically more expensive? That risk is massive, one that could leave lasting scars on the brand's reputation. Already, a few grocery stores have quietly started increasing the price of a 12-pack by 50 cents, but nationwide, the company is holding back. Why? Because at this scale, billions of cans sold per year, absorbing a 50% tariff hike in aluminum costs is a brutal blow to profit margins. No massive company can simply swallow this hit for long without consequence. So far, they might manage to resist passing all costs to customers. But how much longer? What if these tariffs slide even higher? The company is wrestling with the impossible question: how long can it keep cans affordable before prices must go up? Meanwhile, Coca-Cola is pouring efforts into growth outside the United States, in fast-growing markets across Latin America and the Asia-Pacific. If profits are shrinking at home, maybe expanding abroad can offset some loss. It's a lifeline. But the American market still fuels the company's heart and wallet. Unlike juices or zero-calorie drinks that can shift to glass or plastic bottles, aluminum cans are a cultural icon for U.S. soda lovers. They aren't just packaging, they're part of the experience. So, yes, Coca-Cola is massive, and yes, a single tariff hike alone may not sink the entire ship. Yet beneath the surface, damage could be spreading. If the cost of canned soda climbs too high, sales may finally falter, with shoppers turning to cheaper or different alternatives. Competitors like Pepsi are caught in the same storm, making it a force that threatens the whole carbonated beverage industry. And here's the twist: the backlash will not avoid politics. The Trump administration's supporters, the very voters who cheered the metal tariffs, may soon find glass and plastic bottles replacing cans, or colas priced beyond reach. Will President Trump relent? Current signals suggest not. Inside the White House, they believe these steep tariffs will breathe new life into America's metal sector, making this tough sacrifice worthwhile. But as the curtain rises on this high-stakes drama, one question hangs heavy in the air: how long can the thirst for cold soda survive a tariff that feels like a crushing chokehold on every can? As the clouds of uncertainty surround the Coca-Cola Corporation, they find themselves navigating a treacherous maze of tariffs and rising costs. After President Trump proposed a staggering 50% tariff on aluminum imports, the once secure foundation of Coke's supply chain began to shake. Many people believe that these tariffs are just a negotiating tactic and may eventually settle around 30 to 35%, but whether that's true remains to be seen. Coca-Cola, a titan in the beverage industry, is acutely aware that they could be gasping for air in this escalating trade war. It's no small matter. The ripple effects of these policies could drag down their vast operations and create chaos in a sector that thrives on efficiency and affordability. The soft drink giant understands the importance of its aluminum supply. After all, the iconic can is critical for delivering those fizzy delights to consumers. In the ongoing storm, James Quincy's leadership is under duress. His team grapples with a pivotal question: should they raise prices significantly to compensate for losses or endure the financial hit? Both choices feel like a double-edged sword. A dramatic price hike risks alienating loyal customers who might perceive their beloved cold beverage as a luxury, while absorbing costs could lead to crippling financial consequences. Each day brings increasing tension as consumers brace themselves for potential price surges. The paranoia circulating in grocery stores hints at a chilling reality: prices might begin to climb, causing a ripple effect that could redefine the American dining experience, one where popping open a soda with a meal becomes a serious consideration for the budget. Meanwhile, the political climate doesn't show signs of a thaw. Trump's unwavering stance on supporting domestic metal production sends tremors through the beverage industry. As the president touts a resurrection of American manufacturing, Quincy remains cautious, knowing that building domestic capacity would take years and billions of dollars, luxuries Coca-Cola simply may not have. The stakes continue to rise, and both the giants and the consumers are watching with bated breath. Will Coca-Cola be able to weather the storm, or will the rising tide of tariffs and soaring costs leave them unable to connect with their audience? The situation is precarious, and with each passing moment, it becomes clear that the outcome could reshape the landscape of America's favorite beverages. The clock is ticking. How long can Coca-Cola go without raising prices? And will the company that symbolizes American culture survive this tumultuous phase, or will we witness a seismic shift in our cherished rituals? What role will consumers play in shaping this narrative? As the drama unfolds, the American public holds its breath, waiting for clarity in a cloud of confusion. Will the 50% tariff persist, or is there a light at the end of this turbulent tunnel? Could the future of the beloved soda you drink every day be jeopardized by a single bold political move? As President Trump stood confidently at a Pennsylvania steel mill, his declaration of a staggering 50% increase in tariffs sent shockwaves throughout corporate boardrooms, particularly at Coca-Cola's headquarters. For James Quincy, the CEO, that moment was filled with dread. What does a seemingly simple can have to do with a global economic strategy? The deep truth is, aluminum, the key element in every Coke can, has just become a luxury, potentially shaking the very foundation of Coca-Cola's empire. In the early hours of May 30, 2025, faint whispers in the corridors of power hinted at impending tariffs. Little did anyone know that those whispers would soon explode into reality. As applause filled the air, Trump emphatically declared, "We will not build this great country with inferior imported steel," revealing plans to double existing tariffs to an alarming 50%. The implications for domestic companies like Coca-Cola were monumental. With the cost of aluminum skyrocketing, would this trade move invigorate American industry, or would it trigger a crisis in stores nationwide? Quincy's anxiety sharpened as he absorbed the news. He was riveted to his chair, realizing that this drastic tariff would tighten the already strained supply of aluminum, the essential material for Coke's iconic containers. Previously facing a burdensome 25% tariff, the leap to 50% felt like a catastrophic weight on the company's shoulders. Coca-Cola isn't just a local giant, it's a worldwide phenomenon with a significant portion of its production and revenue tied to the U.S. market. Yet, amidst the vastness of its operations, the importance of aluminum is undeniable. As questions flooded his mind, Quincy wrestled with the harsh reality that aluminum imports, once viewed as a routine operational component, had transformed into a critical issue overnight. The U.S. market, a bustling hub for soda consumption, relies heavily on these imports. With domestic production unable to meet demand, the questions shifted: how would Coca-Cola absorb these costs without alienating its loyal customers? Would the cherished beverage become a luxury item? This wasn't just about pricing, this was about survival in a fiercely competitive landscape. The company's response strategy was under intense scrutiny. In previous years, incremental price adjustments were met with resistance. A slight 3 to 4% increase had already stirred dissatisfaction among consumers. An unpredictable price hike of 10 to 15% could trigger a backlash that would ripple through the market, prompting the question, would Coca-Cola risk losing its brand loyalty for the sake of profit? As discussions began behind closed doors with government officials, Quincy's sentiments echoed through the halls. How would they sustain production with dwindling access to essential materials? The stakes couldn't be higher, and the pressure was palpable. In those tense moments, rumors swirled of a concerted effort among food and agriculture lobbyists, filling the air with uncertainty about who would ultimately bear the burden of these tariffs. Would public discontent lead to an outcry? Could Trump be pressured to reconsider? The soft drink giant, emblematic of American culture, faced a precarious future. Experts may argue that this is merely a temporary setback in the ongoing tug-of-war between imports and domestic production, yet Quincy understood the gravity of the situation. New facilities to bolster aluminum production would take years to materialize. A pressing question loomed: could Coca-Cola thrive amidst the turmoil, or would the looming tariff spell disaster for the beloved soda brand? As Quincy pondered the chaos enveloping the company, this moment in history would forever etch a mark on Coca-Cola's legacy. The bitter taste of uncertainty lingered, leaving consumers and investors alike waiting for resolution. Imagine this: one bold announcement sends a giant company spiraling into uncertainty. On a bright spring morning in 2025, President Trump stood tall at a steel mill in Pennsylvania, declaring a jaw-dropping jump in tariffs, from 25% to 50%, on steel and aluminum imports. The room erupted in applause, but inside Coca-Cola's headquarters, CEO James Quincy's heart sank. How could something as simple as a tariff on aluminum ignite a storm threatening the very cans that hold America's favorite soda? Aluminum isn't just metal, it's the lifeblood of Coke. Every sip you take depends on billions of these cans, most made from imported aluminum. For years, cheap foreign supply kept prices steady. But doubling tariffs upended that balance. Suddenly, the raw material essential for Coca-Cola's iconic containers was a costly luxury. Quincy sat frozen, realizing the 50% tariff was no longer just an inconvenience, it was a potential disaster that could ripple through store shelves everywhere. Coca-Cola's global reach is massive, but its heart still beats loudly in the U.S., where a huge slice of both revenue and production resides. The U.S. soda market, buzzing with thirsty consumers, relies heavily on aluminum imports because local production just can't keep up. Now, with the price of aluminum soaring, Quincy faced a brutal question: how do you keep selling affordable soda when the cost of cans might nearly double? Just 2 years earlier, a 25% tariff had hit the company hard, forcing a cautious 3 to 4% price increase. That small bump sparked complaints and hesitation from fans who love their cold Coke without breaking the bank. But 50%? That's a menace lurking on the horizon, threatening a pricey surge between 10 to 15%. Could consumers stomach that? Or would this send shoppers fleeing from the shelves, leaving Coke vulnerable? Behind closed doors, Quincy's worries echoed loudly in meetings with government officials. How will we keep production steady with shrinking access to affordable aluminum? He quietly demanded. The stakes felt electric. The company's survival wasn't just about profit but maintaining a trusted relationship with millions who crack open a Coke every day. As discussions swirled, whispers of a united front among food and agriculture lobbyists echoed through Washington's halls. Farmers, dairy producers, and soft drink giants, all hurt by shifting trade policies, might soon band together to pressure for relief. But would that push sway the White House? Could the administration soften its hand, or would the tariff hammer fall harder still? For Coca-Cola, the complexity ran even deeper. Could shifting production outside the U.S. ease the blow? Not quite. Though Coke brews its beverages worldwide, cans destined for American shelves must still cross borders, catching those steep tariffs. Even sourcing aluminum from Mexico or Canada now seemed a trap, caught in the expanding net of import taxes. Brazil and Gulf producers offered alternatives, but with astronomical shipping costs and uncertain trade relations. Wherever Quincy turned, he saw obstacles. And what about alternative packaging, glass or plastic? Years of environmental pressure have complicated those options. Glass is fragile, heavy, and expensive to transport. Plastic faces backlash on pollution grounds, making it no easy fix. Simply ditching aluminum wasn't a choice. Aluminum cans shaped Coke's brand identity and logistics for decades. This looming crisis put Coca-Cola on edge. Slashing marketing and sponsorship budgets became the harsh reality, as CFO John Murphy admitted. The only way to protect margins in tough times is to cut costs. Would product innovation and bold campaigns survive when the very materials that hold Coke's product climb sky-high in price? Even more daunting, the U.S. aluminum industry's revival would take years and billions of dollars. Building new plants and scaling production takes time, years the company might not survive under 50% tariffs. Quincy saw no quick fix, only the cold, hard wait for 2028 or beyond, hoping domestic supply could rise in time to save the day. Public opinion was another battlefield. Many Americans see Coke as a cherished national treasure, part of the cultural fabric alongside burgers and baseball. Could politicians risk angering voters by letting shelf shortages or price spikes hurt beloved soft drinks? Yet, some supporters of the tariffs see big corporations as global rivals undermining American workers, and believe tough tariffs are necessary to restore balance. For now, Coca-Cola remains cautious. An immediate large-scale price hike would risk alienating loyal customers and tarnishing a century-old brand. Instead, the company maneuvers carefully, hoping to soften the blow while racing to adapt. But the question lingers, will Coke's fizz fade under the weight of politics, tariffs, and supply shocks? Or will ingenuity win the day against a rising tide of costs? This startling moment reveals how a single policy shock can ripple across global supply chains, and right into the cans millions crack open daily. As the world watches, Coca-Cola's fate hangs in the balance. The next chapter could reshape the soft drink market forever.